Hello, friends. My name is Alexey Ognev. I'm the CEO of the DigiU ecosystem. And today we have another webinar. And we will continue doing the same format as last week when we talked about the specific examples that everyone knows about. Last week, we reviewed how the venture capital funds work, how they make profit, why it is important to follow their capitalization, funding rounds, and so on. And today we will continue this topic. And I will talk more about why we chose this topic. Last week, we did this experimental review of marketplaces, of neobanks, and we looked at several companies. The first one was NFT marketplace OpenSea, a neobank called Revolut. And at the examples of these two leaders in their markets with capitalizations of a few billions, we looked at how went since the idea to this capitalization, how many funding rounds they had, who participated in that rounds, why there were so many rounds. We even touched the topic of profitability of these companies. And I've seen interesting discussions in the chats about the Revolut company, for example, which started in the year of 2015, attracted a few millions from different companies, and showed the first profit only in 6 years. And they closed the previous year, 2020, with no profitability at all. But now it has a valuation of a few $1 billion. And many companies are competing to participate in funding rounds. And early investors are happy that they made this decision to invest in that company, which is the leader in their market. And today, we will talk about the most interesting topic for you. It's the topic of exit. It's what the venture funds talk about when they discuss their successes. How many projects brought profits? How many exits they had? And in the comment section where you are watching this webinar, you can ask questions on the topics of the last week webinar, about OpenSea, about Revolut, and of course about today's topic. At the end of the information part, I will choose the most interesting questions and answer them. So you have time to prepare. And before I move on to the topic of exit, I want to talk about one thing. Which raised a huge interest from the DigiU team and from the DigiU audience as well. The thing is that the Revolut company at one of their development stage, organized several crowdfunding rounds. And during these rounds, they attracted $2 or $3 billion, not dollars, but British pounds, since they were based in London. And when I was reading this news, I spent a lot of time to develop in an organic way. And they try to share all the news about themselves. And if you can both attract funds and users, it's the right strategy for you. Because new users are as important as a team with high expertise. And we also have some news about our project. RWA Marketplace and I want to highlight this efficient tool called crowdfunding. We call it crowd investing for ourselves, which helps attract both funds and new users. And these users can see how the company is developing, what solutions they implement. And the client base is formed right away. As for DigiU, the client base is around 17,000. And it would be great if we pass the number of 20,000 this year. And we do everything we can to achieve that. And that would guarantee with almost 100% probability the success of our projects. RWA Bank and RWA Marketplace. Now let's move on to the topic of exits. And the most important part here is the word itself, exit. One of the ways how venture investor investment is an exit. And many funds use this strategy, and our fund is one of them. And we'll talk about that with the help of examples of popular companies. How investors can use this strategy, can use this tool. So we made an analysis of the market, and we will try to look at like that from that perspective. And everyone knows the company called Airbnb, used for rental properties. In 2009, a fund called Sequoia Capital bought 58 million shares at the price of 1 cent in the seed round, which is one of the early stages. Usually we start with pre-seed round. And so the fund called Sequoia Capital, early stage. And at that time, the company's valuation was $2.4 million. It's not much at all. It included idea, formed team, some website, and maybe some small client base. So it was a minimal capitalization, and the chances for success were not so big as well. Today, as I said, tens of millions of people use this website, Airbnb. And now, one share costs $121. And the valuation of Airbnb is about $73 billion. And we could imagine that Sequoia Capital exited the investment Just imagine what profit they could get if they have sold all the 58 million shares. It would be around $7 billion. And the key thing here is that early investors and funds can get profit from their deals quite quickly at each stage. I remind you that in the last webinar we talked about marketplaces and banks. And if we look at the OpenSea marketplace, the Series A round and Series B round, they did these two rounds during few months. And at the Series A round, the capitalization of the company was around $100, $5 billion on someone else at the valuation of $1.5 billion. So the valuation was increased in just 4 months from $100 million to $1.5 billion. That was thanks to the right development plan and right strategy. And venture funds can use this tool called exit. And for example, if we follow the plan A, we can exit at the valuation of a certain valuation and exit the project. And everything is written in the fund strategy. And we know that, for example, the EYWA company can have another round, Series A, and we know that we can sell some parts of the tokens that we own to some other investor at a different valuation. So any business project can have this business model and can use this tool called exit. And for example, the blockchain industry requires a lot less resources to develop and to make a profit than, for example, the artificial intelligence industry. And maybe I'll try to break down the company called OpenAI, which, if I'm not mistaken, was founded in 2019 and which attracted dozens of billions of dollars. But we as users only can see final solutions like ChatGPT. But investors of that company feel great now because they already participated at the earliest stages, and each round was with greater valuation each time. And they were right that they bet on artificial intelligence at the beginning. Now let's look at another company, which in 1997 invested in eBay. Venture fund called Benchmark invested around $7 million and bought 22% of the company. The valuation was $20 million, and in 1 year, the valuation of eBay was 21 billion. And this way, this investment of 7 million changed to several billions. And now I want to read, if the benchmark fund exited the company in round 2, the fund would have gotten 4.62 billion of dollars. So imagine the profit they could have. And when I'm communicating with the audience, we hear a lot of terminology like buyback, IPO, and we have that planned, but a lot less people ask about exit. Most of users don't even consider this tool. But it may be new to our audience. So we get a lot of questions, and we do these webinars. I'm happy to give you more details. So those who are watching this webinar and who watched the previous one, you know that in a few days, we plan to complete the first financing round of 2 projects. Is RW Bank and a marketplace. And I think now it's more clear to you the possibilities we provide. Now the first financing round, called pre-seed round, is open. And the goal of which is to launch these 2 projects during the next 6 months, until March, I would say. To launch these 2 startups related to tokenization of real-world assets. The first one is marketplace, and the second one is a neobank. You can find and learn how these 2 projects are related, what business models they have, what capitalizations they have. We discussed it before, but we will talk about it more and more. And now you need to understand what assets you may receive as a gift of these 2 projects. So it's very simple model. When you can get some ownership of these 2 projects by just purchasing DigiU shares. Basically, if you make any payment. And we chose this way just because we are right at the beginning of these 2 startups. Before we have any valuation of these companies, we cannot say that there are certain valuations of these companies. So our investors get some ownership of the companies that in a few years may cost dozens of millions of dollars. So you have this opportunity, and that's why I'm sharing these examples of venture funds with you. So we have 2 days until the end of the first round, until the end of the first stage. So you have 2 days to make a payment. And then you will see the amount of ownership in your personal account. And maybe by the end of, by our birthday in December, we will publish a more detailed business model and financial plan. And maybe we will introduce some members of the team who are being onboarded in the company. During these months, we are screening a lot of specialists who are required for these projects. First of all, it's technical specialists who can build the infrastructure, marketing professionals who can package the product in a simple and understandable way for the audience. And these professionals so we can create the first working version of the product in 6 months. And during these 6 months, we will get an initial evaluation of the company, attract some of the key players of the market, or at least start a dialogue with them. And the potential for you is that in the next round, you will have the opportunity to exit, of course, if you want to, at a different valuation. Investors. Of course, you are not it's not mandatory to sell your shares that you will receive as a gift. If you are interested in reviewing such companies like today, let me know. So the goal of the first stage of the first round is to attract funds to form a team, to build the initial infrastructure. So that's the goal of our pre-seed round. And we split this round into a few stages, and the first one ends in 2 days. And as I said, the marketing technical team is being formed. And we will introduce everyone step by step. And of course, we will share the development stages. And I think we will participate in some events with this project. And soon there will be websites available. And all the details that will allow to communicate about these projects. Not only within the DigiU ecosystem, but in the real world. The same thing happened with EYWA. Right at the beginning, only you knew about the project. And then we developed steadily. We participated in hackathons. But our community was the first one to know about EYWA. Now EYWA is partnering with big market players and a lot of perspectives in terms of solution. And so that's the plan. Now let's move on to questions. So I have a question from Russian chat. The market is growing. Why there is no TGE for EYWA? Now, I should mention that it's not clear at the moment where the market is going. In the last 2 weeks, we see some growth, but we're not sure if it's a bearish market or not. So it's not clear yet. As usual, the probability is 50%. And now if the commission says that if he makes an announcement about spot market, then the market would go down again. And it's too early to say that investors are ready to invest their funds in a new unknown project. And now EYWA is preparing for a big marketing event, which will allow to attract new users and prepare the audience for the TGE. And probably we will see the TGE happen already this year. So let's just follow the news. I can see another question. Do you have understanding if anyone else is developing in the fields of neobank and RWA marketplace? Of RWA bank and RWA marketplace? Yes, we have some information. And it's not the right strategy for a venture fund to develop something that no one else is doing. Yes, there are someone who is developing in that field, and we are communicating with them. And it's both inspiring them and inspiring us, because we understand that we are not alone in this market. Several professional teams have this idea, and it means that there is a chance for success. None of the companies think that there will be a monopolist of the market. Obviously, it's a trend, and if there is a trend, there are people who work in that trend. Most importantly is to act fast and have a good strategy plan. And now I want to address the people who take installments at DigiU. And that's why we're introducing bonuses for closing installments in advance. And it's the right strategy. Now we have around $2.8 million in installments. And if we had them now, these projects would launch not in 6 months, but let's say in 3 months. So the resources we attract from our investors are very important. And that's why we aim to receive these installment payments as soon as possible. And the decrease in partner reward in our partner program will allow to have more funds within our ecosystem and spend it on development. We increased the partner reward before, it was the right decision, but now we want to go backwards to launch in the market as fast as possible and make profits on our existing projects. Yes, there are players in the market, and Alexander E, in one of the previous webinars, said that there are other players, and he also said that we look at different types of tokenizations, precious metals, real estate, and so on. And the bank will attract liquidity, give out loans, and maybe we will be the first company to provide a mortgage with the use of tokenized assets. Will you work towards legal framework in Russian Federation? Because we will be the first company to work in this field. It's a hard question. Because I'm not sure if we can change a law, but we can become a successful company that will influence the changes. But it wouldn't be correct to do it directly, because we are a commercial company, and commercial companies do different things. So there are a few other questions. When will EYWA be launched? EYWA is already launched, and we are expecting the token launch this year. Just stay tuned and follow the news. DigiU is the best opportunity, and I'm looking forward to launch of the new projects. So there are people sharing thoughts on companies' capitalizations. So the RWA projects will have a few directions. With ordinary users and businesses. At the marketplace, it's buying and selling real world assets, tokenization of different types of assets, real estate, precious metals, and so on. In the bank, it's the similar story. Because now we don't know exactly who will be the users of our bank. Will it be for businesses or for customers? And at the moment, not many people know about blockchain and artificial intelligence. First of all, it's those who are doing business in that field. But now it's not really clear who will be our clients. Will they be businesses or ordinary people? The audience of our RWA project will be formed at the beginning and those who will hear the news firsthand will have the greatest advantages and benefits. And of course, we will test some features when we launch the project. It's all coming soon, it's in the future, and the DigiU community will be the first one to know about these features. We are very close to our clients, and we have the opportunity to develop in this trend together with us as an investor, as a user, as someone who is creating something in this market. Someone is sharing that that it's possible to take a loan on the basis of a token. And the main thing about DeFi is that it eliminates all the unnecessary parts. Which results in more fair and more clear processes. And it's only a matter of time when it will be possible to take out the mortgage on a blockchain. I don't see any questions, but I see some messages to extend the if you make any payment for DigiU shares. And now you can see the conditions on the screen. There will be no such conditions and terms. Different structure. Maybe one of them will be based on blockchain and another one will not. Maybe some of them will require more resources. So that's the only stage when you can get ownership, most benefits. I think tomorrow webinars in a text format. With the main information about the companies developing in this market, what time frame they use, how investors make profit, what is important to